HOA gave me 72 hours to remove my cabin. So I raised their rents by 300% overnight. What would you do if the land you built with your bare hands was suddenly declared illegal by someone who didn't even own it? It started with a letter. A sharp, white envelope slipped under my door like a snake in the night. It wasn't the weathered kind from old friends or forest folks. No, it was embossed too clean, too sharp. HOA issued. Red stamped. Final warning. You have 72 hours to dismantle your unauthorized dwelling. My name is Tom Adler. I'm a retired carpenter, veteran, and until recently, the unofficial keeper of the Whispering Pines community, 50 acres of hand-built cabins nestled just outside city limits. I wasn't on social media. I didn't attend HOA wine mixers. But I did fix people's roofs for free. I helped plant every tree after the wildfire of '03. And I'd lived here long before the HOA ever existed. And yet someone decided my cabin built by my father and I in 1971 was an eyesore, a non-compliant hazard. Someone had filed a formal complaint. Her name was Marla Kendricksonally, elected head of the HOA board, real estate agent by day, nightmare by passion. Or as the locals had started calling her, HOA Karen. The first time we met, she didn't shake my hand. She held up a laminated rulebook instead and pointed at my stone chimney like it was radioactive. This structure violates 5 visible code points, she said flatly. It's non-conforming, non-regulated, and obstructs the aesthetic vision of the HOA. I asked, what aesthetic is that? She gestured toward the new vinyl townhomes they were building down the hill, pale gray, identical, lifeless. You mean those? I asked, already knowing the answer. Marla smiled with teeth, not warmth. We're modernizing this community. You'll thank me later. I didn't thank her. I didn't answer her. I closed the door. But I didn't sleep that night. This place wasn't just mine. It was where I buried my dog, where my daughter took her first steps, where the veterans group gathered every fall. They called it a non-compliant structure. But it was home, and not just for me. I went to the next HOA meeting, sat quietly as Marla unveiled Development Phase 2, which involved demolishing illegal cabins to make room for a luxury common facility and lounge. She said it would raise property value. I raised my hand. So you're going to bulldoze history for a pool table and a treadmill? She smiled again. Progress requires sacrifice. And whose sacrifice are we talking about? She didn't answer. But I noticed the younger couple sitting behind her exchange worried glances. And the old couple in the front row, Sam and Irene, both in their 80-shelled hands tighter. I walked out. But I didn't give up. Because what Marla didn't know, what no one in that meeting room had even bothered to ask, was that I owned 20% of the land they were sitting on, including the easement their new condos were illegally using to access the main road. It was part of an old family trust, never formally handed over during the HOA's expansion. They'd overlooked it, never filed the full acquisition paperwork, and I had the deed to prove it. All I had to do was remind them, but not with a warning letter. No, I called my nephew, a real estate attorney, and by sunrise the next day, I had filed a motion with the county clerk's office officially rezoning my portion of the land as a private rental development. I pulled every legal lever. Loopholes, clause exceptions. I went full bureaucratic vengeance. And then, I posted a rent hike notice on every HOA-owned unit that touched my land. Effective immediately, all rent payments for lease access land increased by 300%. They had 30 days. Marla showed up at my cabin, red-faced and trembling, slamming her Range Rover door like she meant to break it. "You can't do this," she shrieked. I opened the door slowly. "That's funny. You said the same thing to me last week. This is extortion." "No," I said calmly. "This is compliance." She sputtered. "This'll never hold up in court." I handed her a copy of the deed. "Already did." She looked down, face draining. The county seal glared back at her in gold. "You didn't just pick a fight with a hermit, Marla," I said, voice quiet but hard. "You picked a fight with someone who built these woods from scratch. And you forgot to check whose land you were stepping on." And for once, Karen Marla had no comeback. What would you have done in my shoes? Was this justice, revenge, or simply leveling the field? Tell me in the comments. Because sometimes the best way to fight fire is with timber, brick, and an airtight legal clause. Marla didn't just walk away that day, she stormed off, high heels crunching across the gravel like gunfire. But her silence didn't last long. By the following morning, she had filed an emergency injunction to block my rent hike. She showed up at the county zoning office with a lawyer in tow, screeching about how I was weaponizing property law. I watched from the waiting bench as she argued with the clerk, demanding a reversal. The clerk calmly pointed to the screen and said, "Ma'am, the Adler parcel has been independently owned since 1971. Your HOA documentation does not supersede private land rights." Could have left then. I had already won. But here's the thing. I had watched Marla humiliate neighbors, shame retirees over yard gnomes, fine a single mom for excessive laundry visibility. She had handed out punishments with glee, hid behind regulations like armor. And now she wanted mercy? So I didn't walk away. I walked in. "Excuse me," I said to the zoning clerk. "Can I have that rent enforcement form notarized today?" Marla whipped around, eyes wide. "You're bluffing." The clerk nodded. "We can do that right here, sir." And just like that, her face broke. No, you can't actually go through with this." I turned to her. "Marla, you threatened to bulldoze my father's cabin without even talking to me. Now I'm giving you 30 days. Be grateful." That night, the neighborhood forums lit up. Word spread faster than fire in Dry Pine. Renters, most of whom had been quiet victims of Marla's HOA crusade, started speaking out. Screenshots of her warning emails leaked. Fines for sunlight glare off garden ornaments. Threats of decor violation for wind chimes. It wasn't just me. She had made enemies out of almost everyone. But the twist? The renters weren't mad at me. They were furious at her. One by one, people came by the cabin. Not to protest but to thank me. One man, a quiet widower named Glenn, handed me an envelope. "I'm ready to sell," he said. "But not to her. I want you to buy it." I blinked. "What?" "She's been trying to force me out for a year," he explained. "Keeps reporting my dog for barking. Says my porch smells like mildew. I was going to move. But if you're building something better, I'd rather it go to you." Within a week, 3 more offers came in. Not out of profit but principle. That's when I realized I wasn't just pushing back. I was becoming a force she couldn't stop. So I called my nephew again. "If I buy these cabins," I said, "can I rezone the whole strip as independent rentals?" He laughed. "Uncle Tom, if you do that, you'll own more ground here than the HOA itself." "Good," I replied. He filed the papers the next morning. And while Marla tried to rally the HOA board to stop me, cracks began to form. Because the moment money got involved, real money, people's loyalties shifted. Board member 2, Lisa, resigned quietly. "I just wanted to organize community potlucks," she whispered to me at the local coffee shop. "I didn't sign up for lawsuits and land grabs." Then Ben, the board treasurer, called me one night. "I checked the books," he said. "Marla's been pulling from HOA reserves to cover legal fees." My jaw tightened. Without approval? Without telling anyone? She's burning through community funds like kindling. The next day, Ben went public with it. He leaked the financial records to the entire HOA membership. That was the final spark. At the next emergency meeting, Marla entered the clubhouse like a queen under siege. Gone was the smug smile. Gone was the laminated rulebook. People shouted, waved papers, demanded audits. "I've protected this neighborhood from chaos," she cried. "You are the chaos," someone yelled back. I stood in the back, arms crossed, silent, watching. Then Mrs. Ellison, an 82-year-old woman who once got fined for inappropriate yard flags, they were seasonal scarecrows, rose to speak. "Karen, sorry, Marla, you called my husband's flagpole an aggressive symbol. You fined us when he was dying. You said it ruined the street's symmetry. Her voice cracked, but her eyes blazed. I watched you measure our bushes while I cried in the living room, and I said nothing. But not anymore. The room erupted. Marla tried to leave, but Ben called for a vote. Motion. Immediate removal of Marla Kendricks as HOA president. Seconded. Unanimous. She stood alone, shaking, mascara smudged. This isn't legal, she shrieked. It's in the charter, Lisa said, calmly holding up the bylaws. You can't do this to me. No, I finally said from the back. You did this to yourself. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. If someone tried to erase your home, would you fight back or walk away? Tell me below. Beck, the sun was setting behind the Pine Ridge when the official notice was taped to the clubhouse doors. Effective immediately, Marla Kendricks is removed from the HOA board. Underneath it, someone had scribbled in pencil, "Long live the cabins." It should have felt like victory. But as I walked the path back toward my land past rental homes with lights turning on, dinner smells in the air, wind chimes clinking in the breeze, I felt something heavier than celebration. Maybe it was the weight of what had been broken. Or maybe it was the reality that it wasn't over yet. Because despite being dethroned, Marla wasn't done. 2 days later, a city inspector showed up on my property. Clipboard, hard hat, no eye contact. I'm here to evaluate the safety compliance of your residence and rental structures, he said blandly. Sent by who? I asked, already knowing. He didn't answer. But when I offered him water and pointed out the legal zoning documentation, something cracked in his tone. Off the record, he said, this isn't the first time she's tried to use city resources as a weapon. Don't worry, I'm just here to sign off and leave. And he did. But the fact she tried? That was the twist that hit me hardest. Because even after losing her power, her salary, her social clout, she still couldn't let go. It was never about policy or order. It was about control. And without it, she was unraveling. Word got around that she'd been spotted visiting realtors, begging them not to work with me. She tried to smear me online, posting in local forums under fake names. Claimed I was running an illegal compound, housing transients, and destabilizing the community. But the neighborhood didn't believe her anymore. They remembered the fines, the shame, the fear. And they were watching now. The renters she once terrified started organizing a neighborhood potluck. One of the dads, Miguel, offered to build picnic tables near the forest line. Irene, from the Scarecrow story, began a gardening club reclaiming the same flower beds Marla once demanded she remove. The community didn't just remove Marla. They replaced her with each other. But just when I thought the dust was finally settling came the most unexpected visitor yet. Her. Marla. She showed up on my porch. Alone. No papers. No anger. Just broken. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. I just wanted to see it, she said, eyes scanning the cabin. I said nothing. She took a deep breath, like someone about to confess at church. My father left me when I was 7. My mom moved us from place to place, never stable, never safe. We finally landed here when I was 12. The HOA was new then, and for the first time someone told me what order looked like, that rules could protect people. She looked down. I twisted that, I know. I turned safety into punishment, but I didn't know how else to stay in control. I thought if I could keep everything perfect, no one would leave. Nothing would fall apart. She looked up at me then, and I saw something real. Not sympathy, but something broken, small. I'm not asking for forgiveness, she said. I just wanted to explain. A long pause passed between us. Then I spoke. You didn't lose your power, Marla. You lost your fear shield. And now you're seeing the world you built without the armor. She nodded once. You're right. Another silence. Then she turned, walked down my steps, and vanished into the pine dusk. That fall, something shifted in whispering pines. For the first time in years, people weren't afraid to wave to one another. Fences weren't just boundaries, they were gathering spots. The forest cabin stayed, untouched and honored. The new HOA board led by Miguel and Lisa established new rules. Fewer fines, more mediation, and most importantly, community votes. We weren't perfect, but we were healing. The rent increase stayed, not to punish but to fund neighborhood programs, veteran support, school supplies, home repairs for the elderly. The same people who used to fear eviction now helped rebuild the land they lived on. As for me, I didn't tear down the cabin. I built another one. This one had extra space. For neighbors, for stories, for the people who used to feel small. Because sometimes, when someone tries to erase your roots, you grow deeper and stronger. What would you have done? Should someone like Marla be given grace after so much harm, or is consequence the only true justice? Leave a comment below. Your voice is part of the story now. The price of silence is always paid in someone else's peace.